Welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 801. We're into the next century of episodes, 801. It is, as always, I am, as always, your host, N.A. Eric, and it's me and John and Bomo. We're talking about the highlights of patch 13.5. We know that this came out last week, but we had to release the special episode 800, so... we're talking about the major things that happened in the last patch and maybe looking forward a little bit. We'll see how time goes and we'll see what we're feeling like. But guys, it's been, I guess, 3 weeks since we all recorded together because I did the solo cast and then we did the pre-prepared 800. So how the hell are you? Boma, why don't you go first? What you been up to, buddy?
Eating out a lot. I went to Vegas last weekend and just ate a bunch of food there and gambled a good amount of money.
Midlife crisis?
No, it was just meeting up with some friends. I had money set aside for this trip, and so I didn't use all of it, but it was getting close. And then just always eating out because of our busy schedule, and mainly because I don't want to sit in traffic on the way home. So like my fiance is going to school around San Diego, and I work about 30 minutes north from where we live, so I drive 30 minutes to pick her up, and then it's a 14-mile drive, but it takes us 50 minutes to get home because of the traffic. And so it's just,
LA and San Diego metro area traffic.
Right? 14 miles, and it's taking me almost an hour to get home, and so I'm just like I always get annoyed with it, so I just like the days that we're out, it's like, let's just go eat somewhere so we can wait for the traffic. Because we eat for an hour and then you take a 15-minute drive home instead of waiting an hour and then having to cook, So it's tough living in that type of traffic situation. But we are moving pretty soon, so that should be good.
Okay. Where are you guys moving to, if you don't mind my asking?
I don't know if you're familiar with the San Diego area, but we're in like University Heights area, so it's like North Park area. And then we're moving to La Jolla, and that's where she's going to school at UCSD. So it shouldn't be any commute at all. But yeah, we've kind of shifted our like eat out schedule, so we eat out on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays now instead of the weekend, which there are better deals, which is probably not as good for me because I am just a garbage disposal that will inhale anything in front of me. And so I think the last like month I've gained like 6 pounds from just casually eating everything. It's like, oh, I can't save this, and they just eat it all, Those portions that are just a little too small to save to take home with you, just power through it, and you don't regret it. You're like, that was the best decision I've ever made type of situation,
Yeah, it gives you some, it makes you feel happy the whole drive home.
Exactly.
Nice. Nice. You see, I don't actually know the geography of San Diego all that well, but I did visit UCSD, potentially going to college there. I couldn't have gotten in, but it is a very beautiful campus, I will say.
Yeah, honestly, all the California campuses are really nice. So, it's just if you can afford the ridiculous like housing and property prices. Like, my senior year at school, I went to Santa Clara University up in Santa Clara / San Jose area, and there's a house. There's 7 other guys. Okay, so 8 guys. 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, and our rent was just shy of $6,000 a month.
Holy mother of what?
Good lord, that's insane.
And that was on the cheaper side for our for that neighborhood. It's these landlords who can charge an exorbitant amount because we're next to a college campus. They know kids will live there, and you just pack them in like sardines into all the houses. So like a 2-bedroom house, you'll see like at minimum 8 people type of situation. It's kind of ridiculous because it's so expensive
Oh
and
my god.
there's no like regulations or things on it, so everyone's just paying a bunch of money. So you can imagine like 8 guys per house roughly, and then the same street parking. So it's always a battle looking for street parking. I would like park like a 15-minute walk from my house to find a spot and then park there and just walk back home.
What the
But since I was
fuck?
near campus, I didn't really need it to drive too much. But yeah, it was kind of annoying, like trying to remember where I had parked that other time because it'd been so far and so long.
Imagine trying to. So here's a scenario that we've been dealing with here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's been so snowy and a little bit rainy, but mostly so much snow, more than normal, that uh on most streets you can't park on the even side of the street. So imagine dealing with that neighborhood that you had to, and you can only park on one half of the street.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty
Did
bad.
I'm so annoyed. Like, but I feel like there should be like laws or some kind of building permit regulations that you have to build like an underground parking structure for every building you put up because it's I don't know where all there's too many people everywhere and I don't like it at all. I'm not really a people person either, and so just big places I'm just not a fan of.
Can you build down like under in California around there, since because of all the fault lines and earthquakes? Is it common to have
Yeah, they're still
basements and
allowed to.
stuff? Okay.
Not basements for houses, but a lot of parking garages that
Okay.
are slightly underground. But I don't really know how that relates in terms of like if it has to be underground, but it can't be under sea level. I don't know, but
Yeah.
they're a pretty good amount of places, and I just wish
Okay.
more construction companies did that to allow more parking because it's insane in California the number of people here. Everyone should just move back to where they came from.
Just everyone collectively leaves, and then there's no one left in California.
That would be the ideal situation where if I don't see a single car on the road on the way to work, I'll be a happy person.
I was driving yesterday, and it felt just like. Do you guys remember what driving was like in like end of March, early April 2020, when the roads were a straight up ghost town all over the place? It was amazing driving home yesterday and seeing there was nobody on, or
Mhm.
2 days ago, on my half of the road. There were people going the other way, but like there was no one, and it was so nice. Back then,
That
when
would
like you could speed, because I don't know, at least in Minnesota, cops weren't doing speed checks because they didn't want to expose themselves to drivers and stuff because masks weren't like around and things, so they weren't pulling people
Mhm.
over for speeding, and they weren't, unless it was emergency. Actually, I think they were all stationed, like they couldn't leave their station in general,
Mhm.
so you could just like, I mean, it wasn't great because there was some crime happening, but you could just drive as fast as you wanted, basically anywhere you wanted to.
Yeah, that was when I started working down in San Diego, so that was pretty nice. Like a 30-minute commute, even during rush hour, quote
Yeah.
unquote. But there was no rush hour, and so that was nice. Going into work and leaving, I didn't really mind it. But now I'm just dreading it. It's like, oh, I gotta go to work because I gotta drive and be stuck in traffic all the time. It's just such an outdated concept, commuting and sitting in your car going to work. They
Where's
just
our
make
flying
work from home
cars?
permanent.
Where are our self-driving flying
Yeah,
cars?
right.
Like,
I need to be doing work in the car, and that's when my day starts. So I can leave whenever I want. I don't want to start my day when I get to work after I've been in the car for an hour and 10 minutes.
What we should do is just change everything to the Copenhagen model, where 80% of people bike everywhere and don't own cars.
That would be good if there's like decent public transportation to get me so far. So Carlsbad
Yeah.
is pretty far from like San Diego. So if there was a way that I could take a bus up there in like 20 minutes, that or like a train or something, that'd be ideal. But yeah, I've been pushing for it, man. Some 4.8s. I don't want 4.10. I don't want to squish a work week in 4 days. Just give me 4.8s, so I don't have to work the fifth day, and then make sure I can work from home all the time, and I'll be a very happy employee. I won't complain about anything.
I heard, speaking of work weeks, sorry to keep like going back and forth here. We'll get to the league stuff in a second here. My cousin was telling me over the weekend that he heard it was either in Japan or Korea, but I want to say in South Korea, that there's like legislation that may adjust the work week to change it to like an expected uh up to like the expected work hours, normal ones. It's like 40 hours a work week here in the States. They were going to change it up to like 52 or maybe 60 or something like that, which is insanity. And especially when you think about, I remember one of my best friend is from South Korea, and he's told me that like work culture over there is, when you're younger and you're first getting your job or you're not like a senior staff, you're allowed to leave whenever, obviously when you're done with your work. But implicitly, like if you want to actually have a career, you're not allowed to leave until the boss leaves, and then everyone goes out drinking every night after work as well. So you're basically like living at the office. Imagine like tacking on an extra 20 hours a week to that too. Like that just sounds like, oh my god, you're going to drive people into the ground.
The funny thing is, I think the 50 something to 60 hours is probably going to be less than what they're working right now. It's like
Yeah.
insane how many hours they're working and like the number of days. And so that's like I think I don't know if it was something my parents told me or my grandparents told me, but they read the news all the time, and so they're from Korea, so they always watch Korean news and whatnot.
Okay.
And they were saying like this, like the youngest generations are the generation that's dying the most just because they're all overworking themselves. So I think this is actually to prevent that, which is really weird coming from like the sense of work in the U.S., right?
Yeah, where
Because it's like,
everyone is like, I'm going to
oh
work,
yeah,
and then as soon as I'm done, actually 35 hours and I'm done.
yeah, pretty much. Like always a half day on Friday, and then Monday through Thursday put in the work, and then Friday I can just show up, have a coffee, and that's like, oh, look at some emails, and then I don't want to work anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, John, how have you been, man?
I've been good. I've been playing a little bit of League.
Are you fully recovered from whatever stomach virus hit you and wiped you out for
Yeah,
2 weeks or so?
yeah. Oh, I'm back. I'm back.
Oh yeah.
I'm back to 100% for sure. But yeah, I've been playing. I've actually been getting back into tennis, and I'm doing a league where it's kind of like basically draft style, but you have to be. I think there's 5 teams, but there's I think I want to say I don't know how many players, but you have to be a certain rating or above to get into it, and then they just make up teams from the draft, and then we play a couple matches a week.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, I've just been getting back into it, so that's been fun.
Nice. Cool.
But
Cool.
everything else, pretty much same old. But
Nice.
been good.
Cool. Glad to hear it. As far as me, yeah, everything's been good. Doing some more job applications and stuff because I'm looking to move out to more. It's looking more likely I'm going to be moving out to Denver. So, doing some job application stuff like that. Yep, played some league. I got back up into. I played 3 games last night or 2 nights ago, and got back up into Plat 3. So I put in my ranked for the week. I played 3 games. uh, yeah, just I've been playing more norms a bit just because there's been a lot of jungle changes lately, and I don't feel like I have my pulse on what's best or what's not. So yeah, and we'll talk about that some in this patch. But yeah, other than that, life wise, or I guess I already talked a bit about that. But I just wanted to bring up that I had a really funny conversation with my girlfriend yesterday. We were driving to go get some dinner, and it was snowing as it has been constantly all winter. This is the wettest winter ever recorded in Minnesota, and in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where I live, we've gotten so far like 6.5 feet of snow this winter, which is pretty high, and it's the eighth snowiest winter ever. And we're supposed to get another rainstorm and snowstorm coming in a couple days, so that'll be fun. But um, when we were driving to dinner, I was like, "Oh, like the scenery looks really nice over here." We're like driving around some highway, and it was kind of scenic. And then just as an offhand comment, things that people say in the car. I was like, "When was the last time you saw the sun?" And she's like, "I think a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago." And then like immediately, like my brain clicked, like, what is happening that is a normal conversation? Like, how is that a thought? Given like, I mean, that's the weather that's been happening, but I just find that hilarious that that was an actual conversation and it wasn't even something like troll that I was saying. That shows how our
That's funny.
weather's been.
Yeah.
So, okay. Cool. So, before we get into the patch, I wrote down a new question of the week because it's been about a month since we did one. Actually, I think it's been 1 month to the day. So, I guess a little bit less than a normal month because February is short. But yeah, so we appreciate all your feedback on things that we can improve in additional content and stuff. But so for this next one, I thought we'd just throw out what are your first impressions of Melio, and we're going to talk about this champion probably next week. Maybe another patch will drop by then, so we may delay it. But in the next couple episodes, we'll be talking about Melio and all of our thoughts as well. So we'll hold our first impressions for then and when we play. But let us know your thoughts about the thematics, the look of it all, the lore, which I have not got up on yet, so I'm behind where I normally am, and the gameplay and everything. So yeah, let us know. But without further ado, let's get into the highlights of this patch because it was a behemoth of a patch. It was a Scion-sized patch. So there's already been some mid-patch updates. There's a Yuumi change, which we will go into when we talk about Yuumi. So, I mean, I guess Yumi's the first one on here. So let's go through it. So I'll read through a whole bunch of stuff here, and then we can talk about it all. So it's basically a mini rework we were just discussing a little bit earlier. So Yumi's health growth is going down by 15 per level. Her base mana went up by 40. Her passive, the Boppin block is what it was. They changed it to Feline Friendship. So it has a new thing, base armor. When Yuumi spells or attacks affect champion, she heals herself and charges a heal for her allies. If she attaches within the next 4 seconds, she brings the heal to her ally as well, meaning she heals herself, both herself and the ally. And while attached, this effect automatically occurs. Think a Rakan Q, the heal. That's kind of how it works. Making friends. While attached, Yuumi builds friendship. It's this unique buff. Whenever her ally kills enemy champions and minions, each ally has their own unique friendship score. While attached to her best friend, the one with the most friendship, Yumi's abilities gain bonus effects, and we'll go through each one of those. The cooldown of this heal ability, the Boppin block, which is now Feline Friendship, was 20 to 10 seconds, and now, or it's 20 to 10 seconds, and the heal amount is 25 to 110 plus 15% AP, scaling linearly. Additionally, when Yumi's passive is ready, when her auto is ready, her attack range is increased by 50. So she has a shorter attack range, but generally than when her auto is ready to use. Normally Yuumi hops off, she autos once, hops back on, so now you're going to have a little more range to do that. Her Q, Prowling Projectile. So the cooldown now for this, they don't even have the previous numbers in a lot of these, so I'm just going to be reading what the numbers are now. The cooldown 7.5 to 6.25 seconds, the mana cost 50 to 75, damage 60 to 210 plus 20% AP. The slow is 20% for 1 second. The projectile missile width went down by 5, so it's now 60. It's pretty narrow, actually, then. Hitting an enemy with Yumi's Q now reveals them. It will not reveal stealth enemies, just normal enemies. And then the best friend bonus, the abilities slow will always be empowered, and hitting enemy champions always grants 10 plus 20 plus 10% AP on hit damage to her ally for 5 seconds. This damage is increased by up to 75% based on her ally's crit chance. The best friend empowered damage is 80 to 380, so the empowered Q is going to do a lot more damage, and it has a higher AP ratio. It's 35%. The empowered slow is 55 to 80% decaying over 2 seconds to 20%. So instead of being 20% slow for 1 second, the best friend empowered slow is 55 to 80. So it's massively higher. Her W, the adaptive bonus, has been removed, and Yumi's W no longer procs Airy just by using it. While she is on her best friend, she gains 10 to 20% bonus heal and shield power based on the ally level, not her own. And her best friend gains 3 to 11 plus 4% AP on hit healing. And this is affected by Yumi's heal and shield power, so it's a much more simple W now. Her E, it no longer heals the zoomies; it just shields. Cooldown 12 to 10 seconds, scaling down. Mana cost is now 80 to 120 instead of being like a flat amount plus like 20% of her max mana. That's gone. The shield strength is 90 to 210 plus 30% AP. The attack speed bonus 35% plus 8% per 100 AP. The movement speed bonus. Allies receive a flat 20% movement speed bonus while her E shield persists until the shield is broken or it decays after 3 seconds. The Anchor Mana Restoration. So Yuumi restores 20 to 36 mana to her Anchor, the one she's on, not herself, when she casts this. Increased by up to 100% based on their missing mana. So she's giving them a shield, movement speed, attack speed, mana restoration. And then it does not have a best friend bonus because Yuumi should be able to save all of her allies. Okay. Now her R. This also got changed. The cooldown went up by 10 seconds at all ranks. The damage per wave went up by, so it was 60 to 100 plus 20% AP. Now it's 75 to 125 plus 20% AP. The heal per wave now is 35 to 65 plus 15% AP. Slow duration 1.25 seconds. Slow amount 10% plus 10% additive per wave hit. Maximum of 50% slow. The best friend bonus waves also grant Yuumi's best friend 20 to 60 plus 10% AP, armor, and magic resistance for the further duration of the spell. Basically, she fires her R in waves that affect enemies and allies. It used to only affect enemies. If cast while attached, she can steer the waves, just like she can with her Q. And for allied champions, the waves heal. So that's that heal that I mentioned a second ago. The heal is increased by 100% on her best friend. All excess healing is converted to a shield, lasting for 3 seconds until or after the ability ends. And it stacks slows. So you're not gonna get rooted anymore. You're just gonna get slowed by the more you hit. And it feels like it goes a little further, I will say, from when I've played it. But that's all of everything there. And then she got a change already. So her Q got nerfed. The slow, instead of being 55 to 80, it's 50 to 65. And she also got a bug fix, but her Q damage also went down. It was 80 to 380 plus 35% AP. Now it's 80 to 355 plus 30% AP. Okay, so basically she was reworked. I mean, that's what they say, it's a Yuumi rework, even though it wasn't really billed as being a VGU or a CGU or anything like that. I mean, I guess I've talked a while. Thoughts? John, have you played ADC with a Yuumi at all or played against it? Like, what are your thoughts on this, man?
I've played against it a few times. I don't know. So I guess right off the bat, I think the Q, enhanced Q, like the amount that it speeds up is absurd. Like it accelerates to like an absurd speed instantly. Seems like it's pretty hard to dodge if they're decent at hitting it. I don't know.
It goes further too, I've noticed.
Yeah, it's like I mean, I don't know. That's a little annoying. I don't know why. I would much prefer it just to I don't know, just be the same. I don't know. It just seems like yeah, they made her E a shield. Like I like the direction of it. Like thankfully, full AP Yumi isn't like the the most viable build anymore. But I mean, she was gutted for a while. She was really bad after they changed her. But
Yeah, I
I don't know.
mean,
She's pretty good now. Like she's pretty good again. So
she
I don't
is.
know. The thing I think is insane too is like with how good Overheal is, and like the fact that she gives on hit healing to me seems a bit ridiculous. I don't know. Like they took away the healing on her E, but in exchange they put a heal on literally everything else. You know, feels like pretty much everything else.
Yeah, it's a much, I think it's, yeah, there's a lot more in her kit now, even if the numbers are worse all the way around, like you're saying. I mean, and to the win rate that you said, she jumped almost 10% win rate from last patch to this patch. And people don't
Yeah,
even really know how to play that well with the new Yuumi as well. So this is going to be higher than a 49% win rate. It's 49.96, so 50% win rate, and she was at 40% last patch.
so I guess like I like the direction of the mid patch update to her because they made it so that I don't know because like I guess my part of the problem with it was is like when you had her enhanced Q that went really fast, like that's way easier to hit also, and it did more damage. So I feel like that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like the thing that's easier to hit does more damage for the two. So they changed that basically, and then they changed the slow too. Like made it so the slow isn't as bad when you get hit by the enhanced Q because I mean it's not that hard to hit the enhanced one because of how fast it goes. But I don't know if you also saw the thing where she could give like Ezreal, or if you started tier, she could just sit on you and stack it with her W. Give the user stacks, tier stacks.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's so in the mid patch update it says fixed a bug where if Yuumi used her W on an allied champion, both Yuumi and her ally would receive tier of the goddess stacks if they had the item in their inventory. So you just start tier on Ezreal in her, and then you just literally sit in base before the game even starts. You could stack like to like 32 before the game even starts.
Wow.
I can't remember. There was someone did a video on it, but you could get a good bit of stacks, get it stacked very easily, because she would just be perma W you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's wild.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the overall direction of it, but I think that also the amount of healing and shielding, uh, like empowerment she gets on her W is quite a bit. I mean, but out of the gate, it's 10 to 20% scaling on an ally level. So, I mean, that's a lot. So
Yeah,
10%
I
out of the
imagine
gate.
I totally agree. I imagine this based on ally level is going to get changed to her level just to stop her being, like, hey, the top laner has gotten a whole shitload of XP and is just way ahead. Then you pick an on hit, or you pick someone that could be. I mean, this works perfectly for like Olaf top lane, right? He gets ahead. He has super levels. Yumi's level 9. He's level like 15. Boom, he's got like level 15 worth of this ability on him if she gets onto him. Like this just seems I guess best friend, so she'd need to be visiting him some, or you just could manipulate this by not stacking it on your ADC and just being worse early to then take advantage of it in mid game or something.
I also think the Q, like, with the crit, allies crit, is, like, a little insane on some people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if she just jumps on a Trinity or something too, and he's got, full his, usual build, like, I mean, he is going to be hit. Like, her Q does up to 75% more damage based on her allies crit chance.
Yeah, so
So
I
that
think
seems like her Q would be hitting insanely hard as Yuumi. I don't know.
I stand by the idea of Neela Yumi mid lane, and then I think now this version of Yumi is even better for that.
Yeah, I agree. Because like also they just get the synergy of both. They have the healing
And
enhancement, both of them, base out of just right out of the gate. Just for existing, they just get so much. Both of them.
yep, they get that. They get the on hit exactly.
They get
They
free
have
experience.
crit stuff, free experience, mana regen, which I don't think Neela really deals with that, but you could constantly spam your stuff then. It's there's no way that I want someone to try this that can actually play Neela, which there's not very many people that I know that actually want to play her, or then even further are that good at her.
What would you play bot then? What would you put bot?
Karthus or Scion. Yeah.
That's
Shen,
tough,
maybe.
yeah.
Nah, not Shen. Actually, he could get abused too early. But like, I'd play Karthus probably. Karthus with teleport and exhaust, probably.
Ziggs would also be good too.
Yeah.
Ziggs would be good. Yeah, anyone that could.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that'd be good.
Anivia would be good.
Anyone with a wave, whoever, yeah, any wave cleaner.
Sivir
Oh my
solo
god.
lane, and you just play Ivern or something in the jungle, and then just hover bot side more, just for protection and everything. That would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Boma, what do you think about these changes?
I think it's pretty interesting. It makes her easier to play, but also have a higher skill ceiling, maybe. So the way that a lot of the abilities work is, well, the old Yuumi, the way the abilities worked is you want to interweave autos and jumping on and off allies to get mana back so you can spam your spells type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this here is you heal with the W when you get on them, so that's fairly easy for newer players, which was tougher before. But now the E applies a shield, right? So a lot of it's preemptive damage, so you have to know when they're about to take damage. So it's not super hard, right, to shield, but it's slightly more difficult than just straight out healing someone because the healing is post damage where the shielding is mitigated. If you shield after they've done their initial burst, it's kind of useless type of thing. And then I like how they make both Q and R controllable now, so you can change the direction, and that makes it slightly easier for new players instead of having it just a single direction. But the way that a lot of it works now is it's better to hop off because you get the extra auto attack range, so you can throw in a little bit more damage here and there, and you don't have to worry too much about trying to maximize her spell cast with mana by getting on and off. You just get heals that way. So a good Yuumi can heal a lot more maybe potentially than before, but it's gonna be more skill in order to actually heal your allies, just due to the way you jump off, hit abilities, jump back on, and whatnot. But I think overall it's a good change. It makes her friendly for newer players who like to just sit on their allies type of thing, and then also give some more skill expression for those people who really want to like master Yuumi.
Yeah, overall, I like the direction of it. Like, especially I like that R is more than like just push R and use the CC. Like, there's way more to it than that now. Like, it has more utility in terms of like. I mean, I think, in my opinion, they should tone down the heal a little bit on the R as well, because especially on the one person, I guess it's on the best friend, but seems like a lot. But I like that you get the armor and MR, and it gives you the slow, and you can control the direction of it, which is nice too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
I do.
yeah, I like that it's just more than just being CC bot basically.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that the R does have a bit too much in it, though. Like that idea. It feels. I think that they should change the AP ratios on the R to be like with ability level, go like 0, 15, 30. Then for both of them, perhaps the damage and the heal, because then you're gonna gate her early a bit more. Because I mean, the flat resistances are pretty crazy, and the heal seems like a bit much because it's per wave, and she fires 5 waves here. So you're not talking about just 35, okay, maybe 40 with some, a little bit of AP. You're looking at 35. This is 175 healing level 6, assuming that you have 0 AP, which you won't. So you're probably looking at like 200 to 30, and that's AOE max as well. That's not just for one target. That's AOE, which is wild. Yeah. So, and that's even before her W giving the empowered healed and shield power as well. Plus, then all the items that she gets with it. It seems like a little bit too much, but these will get tapped down. If Yumi's been out for a week and she's at a 50% win rate after a hot fix nerf, she's gonna get nerfed more, because imagine when this hits pro play for LCK playoffs, when it hits for LPL playoffs, or maybe LPL is already on this. When, I mean, LEC is maybe on this right now because they just started up their new split today, I think. When LCS hops over to this, we'll see what's happening. But I would struggle to believe that this is not permaban immediately out the gate. So
Yeah, I think Jinx Yumi would be a pretty good combo too. Yeah.
100%. Okay. Any other thoughts on Yuumi, or should we move on because we have other champions to cover?
Let's move on. Yeah, I think
Okay,
that's
cool.
basically the main rundown of Yumi.
Okay, so this one's going to be a little shorter. We have Ashe here. Ashe, basically, I mean, John, you play ADC. Why don't you run through these for us?
Okay, yeah, the Q mana cost is decreased, so it's going from 50 to 30, and the empower duration is going from 4 to 6 seconds. Then her W, the base damage, is getting decreased, so it's going from 10, 20, 20, 35, 50, 65, 80 to 10, 25, 40, 55, 70 with the same scaling. And then her R, the cooldown, is increased early and decreased late. I think that's a good change. It's going from 80, 70, 60, scaling to, it's changed to 180, 60 now. So, yeah, I think that's a good change for sure overall. Like, I think the Q is a nice change, just for like quality of life a little bit. Because I don't know, like it's like her bread and butter as far as getting her attack speed steroid. So I think that it costing a little less mana and having the duration extended will be really nice. I mean, an extra 2 seconds of having it up could be huge once you have items.
I
But
honestly, I
yeah,
honestly
I like.
thought, I honestly thought her Q was free. I didn't know that it cost mana at all.
It is a little annoying that it costs mana, but yeah, I mean, I think overall, like this was intended as ADC buff and support nerf, which I think is good. But yeah, overall, I think these are great changes because she's getting picked a lot in Pro Play too.
Yeah, she's permabanned in LCK, I know, and I've watched, and if she's not banned, she is picked every single game across all regions that I've been seeing.
Yeah, have you seen like the Varus Ash double Hail Blaze?
Yep,
Just so oppressive early, just insane.
yep, I have. Um, what happened? I thought they were doing. Did you guys know anything about a buff to her Q that they're workshopping where you don't need to stack it up now with 4 autos, just like you press it and then it happens. Like I thought that was happening, or was supposed to maybe happen on this patch, or maybe it got pulled or something. Are they still planning on doing that? Do you guys know at all what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I do. That sounds very
yeah,
familiar. I don't know what
I don't
happened
know
to it.
how they would change it though, because the way I mean, it's way more conditional now. I mean, that would make it way easier to use. Like, what you mean? Just make it like a toggle, or
Yeah, or not like a toggle. Like it still would have. Let's say it's 6 seconds, but you don't need to. With Ash, you need to build up 4 autos on a
yeah, you just
non-turret.
stack it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
just immediately if you wanted to like walk into lane, you could press it and it would work. So there's
yeah. I
there's
mean, that would be
no
really
there's no
nice.
stacking at all involved with it. Obviously, they might have to tone the damage down or something like that, perhaps. But
Mhm.
that was what I thought they were gonna do in order to make Ash more ADC inclined than support. Because right now, like she's basically just as good in support and better as an ADC overall with these changes. To me,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know. I think, in my opinion, I think the way her Q stacking works is fine. If anything, maybe make it so it's like one less focus stack that you have to get before you can do it.
hmm
I mean, I think that would be even just that. I think would be a really nice change, but
let it
I
stack
think that
on
would be above.
turrets.
Or and that, yeah, I that's one thing I've never understood. That's why you can do it on everything except turrets. But yeah, I don't know. I think that would be a nice change if they do something else to her for sure. Because I mean, I like playing Ash.
She is kind of fun to play. I like playing her support because I don't like auto attacking fast. I can't handle it.
Gosh, I love playing her ADC. When you're, 3 items, your slows are insane. You can kite them. Anybody.
I can't handle auto attack moving like you guys can.
You can do the space glide, but then it makes you look even better because then you slow them too. So you're like, haha, that feels so good.
Yeah. Bomo, do you have any thoughts that we didn't talk about much with Ash here?
No, I think you guys covered it all.
Okay. Cool. Well, here's your chance to get some talking in. Why don't you walk us through Asol?
That abomination.
So he's getting nerfed. He's a little too strong early on for how well he scales. So they're reducing his health growth from 100 to 95, and then armor growth from 4.6 per level to 4.3. And they're adjusting the numbers on his Q. So the way his Q works, right? If you hit someone and then you can proc it again after they've been exposed to the Q for I think a second or something like that.
I'll look.
Or
I
like
think
a
it's a
couple
second.
procs.
I'll look
Yeah.
though.
But anyways, the the base damage is staying the same. They're lowering the AP ratio. So because already he scales pretty well, I don't think this should be too bad of a nerf. It might affect a couple trades here and there, but I've been playing a lot of ASOL, and I'm kind of running to the point where I don't really know what Keystone or is Keystone what rune to take on him.
It is 1 second, by the way. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the 1 second exposure, and I've been going first strike, but I think there's probably better runes. I want to try more of a spellbook based Aurelion Soul because I feel like he has a tough time utilizing a lot of the runes in general, especially with almost like a little bit more of like a fighter style with being able to pick your summoner spells. I think that would be good and maybe it would help with some of his early game weaknesses. Like if you can take TP but swap it out for ignite, heal, and that kind of stuff, that makes your dueling potential a lot stronger. So I kind of want to try that out. But yeah, I don't think this should knock him too much out of meta. Maybe a couple numbers here and there. Like if people are playing around your proc, it shouldn't be too big of an issue. But I don't think you'll see that big of a change. Maybe he'll tone down some of his damage, especially with the way his execute works on his E. But I think he's still in a good spot.
Yeah,
What else?
his win rate went down by 1%, but it's as far as the rune, his highest win rate rune according to u.gg, like with a decent pick rate, the one they're recommending is Comet. John, you were going to say something before I accidentally cut you off.
Yeah, I was actually going to say ask Boma if he played Comet at all.
I did for the first game, but I feel like it seems like the proc Q does more damage, but maybe for the poke it's good.
I
But
think the
it
poke
kind of yeah.
and
The poke.
you can take, because you're going sorcery, you can go into Manifold Band, which helps with
Mm-hmm.
your mana issues early, and then also so you can just trade based off Comet in your Manifold Band, and then you go Transcendence, which is always nice on him.
Or if
And
you're in a
then I guess,
if you're in a really rough matchup, then you get access to nullifying orb too.
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe it's good for early laning. I think I'll try that out because he doesn't need really any help later in the game, so it's kind of right. You take Comet for kind of the early game scaling for the lane to kind of poke him out
yeah,
later. And so the
but
late game, I don't think you'll really need it. So I'll definitely try it out.
yeah, and then I think you could go in the last part of sorcery. You can either go Gathering Storm or Scorch based on the lane, and then the interesting thing I'm seeing here is that it's like you can go. I mean, if this is like full scaling, I'm clearing waves perma until I'm getting strong, but you can go magical footwear and then minion dematerializer, and then you're just like clear waves, starting to clear waves faster. He's still very good though, in my opinion. Like I think he's like the best top two mid laner still.
I would say instead of like obviously Gathering Storm is good, but I would say if you're gonna go Comet, then you're gonna. I mean, people. I would say from what I've seen, to play when people are playing against Aurelion Soul, they try when they're casting UQ. You either try and hide well out of range because you outrange him, or you hide in the minion wave because then you can't get hit by the Q. But if you have Comet, then you're clearing the wave faster a bit. I think would help. But also since you're roaming a lot, I would strongly suggest you trying out water walking as opposed in the bottom one because it gives you that extra fighting in the river and you're flying over the river all the time in the game anyways or walking through it and then you get to roam faster too so that you could be ever present on the map like that
That
feels
yeah.
really good.
If you're also the that's a good point because that makes it so you have slightly more, especially if you have a matchup with your jungler where you can 2v2 their jungler in mid, because water walking does give you a significant amount of stats. Like it gives you a game, like a fight, early fight winning amount of stats. It can 100% be a difference maker.
Yeah, I mean it's up to 18 AD or 30 AP based on level, and
Yeah,
I assume it scales
and the move speed.
linearly. So let's say you're at level 6, you're getting an extra like 5 or so, and 25 flat move speed as well. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, 25 move speed early too is insane.
So if you
So
were to take
yeah,
that and celerity instead of transcendence, I mean transcendence is still good, don't get me wrong, but he already has really low cooldowns that you wouldn't necessarily really care about transcendence. Like most of his abilities don't really like Q, you don't care about a cooldown. The W in fights, you don't care about his cooldown, and the ult already has really long, you don't care. And your E, I mean a little bit, sure, but it doesn't
so
yeah, I don't know.
I
I'd say
guess
celerity.
in my opinion, the transcendence, yeah, like the ability is always nice, and but I think the main benefit of it is when you hit level 11 with transcendence, because he already gets the like 90% cooldown or whatever it is, 95% on his W whenever you get takedown. But then transcendence at level 11 makes it so you reduces the cooldown of all your basic abilities by
But you're
20% on cooldown, like on champion cooldown.
right, but like you said, your W is already basically coming. It comes up in like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, basically, once you have an item or two, and then your Q has a flat 3 second cooldown. I think regardless of ability haste, if I understand it correctly, and or maybe with ability haste, but 3 seconds is going to come up anyways. And okay, maybe your E, but that
Yeah, I think the E though is that's what I was gonna say is the main thing is the E because the E is like I mean you have collector on his E. So if you can do that
yeah,
twice a fight instead of once, that's actually insane, in my opinion.
sure, it's 12 to 10 seconds, so for a cooldown. So 10 seconds if you're getting, I mean, Asol builds a lot of items that have ability haste. Bomo, you're probably getting this down to what, a 6 second cooldown pretty reliably mid to late game?
I'm actually not too sure. I haven't really been paying attention because I'm definitely getting off twice a fight for sure. But I feel like ASOL in itself has prolonged fights because you do a lot of like DPS sustained damage, so a lot of the bursts aren't really there. So I think I'm usually cleaning up with my E towards the end.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I think
It
I honestly think absolute focus wouldn't be too bad of a take here too. I think it's pretty
Yeah,
good because
I think
with
it
the
could be good.
healing and like how healthy you are, I think you'll just utilize that a lot better than maybe like
Yeah,
celerity.
in like a where you have a range advantage, I think that would be like so oppressive.
yeah, what you could do as well is if you're in a really rough matchup, you could auto QE and run away with phase rush. Imagine that too with taking really defensive. So phase rush could be something that you use if it's a really bad matchup, like if you blind it and you're absolutely like their whole team comp absolutely destroys you for some reason, then that could be something to go to. I will say I was watching an LS stream last Friday or maybe over the weekend, and he was talking about how he thinks, and I don't know, I haven't really thought about it, so I don't know if it's any good. So you could test it out, or maybe you have some insight that he thinks that Ludens would be the best mythic, not Roa, not Leandries, because a lot of, like you said, Asol does do some DPS, but a lot of what he's doing is upfront burst or burst within a second or so, and then that Ludens proc would give you additional damage there. Plus, it gives you move speed and it gives you magic pen because that's what Ludens does, and it gives you AP and mana and such, those other things that he
Mm.
wants. Yes, you're not as tanky, but you're gonna do more upfront damage.
I could see that, especially with timed with like an empowered R when the skies ascend. I feel like that would be pretty good.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's tough to see right now because everyone's kind of going like a tanky build. I think because Roa is pretty like flavor of the month right now. But I'm down to try other mythics on him because I think it'd be pretty good. And you brought up Phase Rush. Stop talking about Phase Rush, Eric. I enjoy playing against the Asols with my Yone and Diana. Please stop talking about Phase Rush.
Okay, I'll stop talking about phase rush and then we can move on to the next one then. That's a great segue. So, next one we have is Azir. So, Bomo, I'm going to have you go through these as well since you play Azir because this is arguably like a semi rework in his
Mm-hmm.
identity.
Yeah, so it's Azir's game plan was to kind of scale early on, and then you scale and you bring out soldiers and you fight with your soldiers. And the key number was having 3 soldiers, since with 3 soldiers you get extra attack speed, but that is not the case anymore. So for Azir himself, they're making him a little bit squishier. No, actually slightly tankier than before, just so they can slightly adjust, I guess, how he plays. So they are, I guess, decreasing his health but increasing his armor growth per level. They're decreasing his base mana, and then they're also no, they're increasing his mana growth, and then his attack damage got buffed. His attack damage growth so from 2.8 to 3.5, and then the base attack speed is still the same, but his attack speed ratio has gone up from 0.625 to 0.694, and the attack speed growth has gone up from 3% to 5%. Um, so this is pretty big because they took away the attack speed on his W, where his soldiers are, and now they also adjusted his passive as well. Passive as well. So now the passive lasts for 30 seconds instead of 60 seconds, but it does a lot more damage now. So instead of doing 150 plus 4 per minute plus 15% AP physical damage, it now does starts at 230 up to 410 based on level, and then plus 40% AP. And now it does magic damage. So now I think it's better doing magic damage as a turret because you can rely on it more frequently now when you're fighting, and I think you're able to utilize it a lot more, especially with the cooldown being reduced from 180 seconds to 90 seconds. So your uptime is you can place 2 more turrets than you could previously, which I think is pretty massive. We were talking about this slightly before we actually recorded, but do you leave Azir as type of a put a tower up, wave clear, so you get push in that lane? But I think there's maybe more strategical stuff to placing a tower mid fight now because it does so much damage. And if you're building a lot of AP items on him anyways, I feel like the ratio is there to help with the damage as well. Um, and the big thing with this turrets too is they increase the overall health of the turret from 2550 to 3000. The armor is adjusted, so now it's 60. It was 60 plus 1 per minute. Now it's 30 scaling to 60 based on level. And then the magic resist was adjusted as well. So instead of it being 100 plus 1 per minute, it's now 30 to 90 based on level. And the debuff before was the turret would lose 100 armor while Azir was away or dead. So what we were talking about, you just set it up, kill minions type of thing where it loses a lot of armor. But now it loses both armor and MR while Azir's away. And so it makes it more of a thing you use in fight, I think, than leaving it in lane. And they're also adjusting his Q. So I guess I don't know. You guys haven't played a lot of Azir, but his main focus in lane is you take first strike or comet, depending on the lane matchup.
And don't you rise up a soldier auto Q
Yep.
auto for the either electrocute or the guaranteed comet proc or first strike damage? Yeah.
Yeah. So the soldiers autos slow them as well. So you put up a soldier, auto them, and then you Q them because they're slow, and you can get a couple extra autos in. So that's kind of the early game play
I didn't know the
plan.
soldier auto slowed them. I thought it was just the Q.
Mm-mm. Nope, but yeah, it does slow. The auto's slow, so it's pretty good. Setting that up, and then so they're pretty much taking away that type of trade because it was pretty safe. So it used to do 70 up to 150 plus 30% AP, and now it does 60 to 140 plus 35% AP. So apparently this is a buff when you get at least 200 AP. So if you're building a lot more, it eventually will hurt more than the current or than the previous iteration, but your early game is knocked down quite a bit. And now the mana costs scale with level now. Where it used to be a flat 55, now it scales from 65 to 85, so you can't just be spamming it in lane. It'll be honestly pretty hard, I think, on his mana. A lot of the plan to counter Azir is you want him to use his E because it costs a lot of mana. So the combo of W, E, Q, I think burned like a third of his mana or something. So that was kind of the key to beating him is by making him use up his mana. And now I feel like it's even easier for him to use up his mana with Q costing so much more mana. And the W, as I mentioned, the soldiers no longer give passive attack speed. Instead, they do additional magic damage now. So now it does 50 to 90 additional magic damage per level. And the magic damage of the soldiers went from 50 to 150 based on level plus 55% AP to now 50 to 200 based on level and W rank. So I don't know how this works if you do a level and the ranking, if there's intermittent stuff for level up and rank ups, but I don't really know what that means. But in an extra plus 55% AP ratio. And the last change for his E is they decrease the AP ratio on his E. So it used to be 60 to 220 plus 55% AP. Now it's 60 to 220 plus 40% AP. So they put down a lot of his early damage overall. But if you're maxing W now, you could do a lot more damage. Prior, it was always a Q max lane. You didn't really need to max your W, and that was your second max. But now I think it's more important to max W because you get the extra damage from the soldiers, and then you can apply the slow and auto them again. So I think now it's going to be a W max Azir moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I feel like it looks like because like before, because of his attack speed, you could kind of it was nice because you could kind of spec into Conquer just because of the way he worked. But now you kind of are forced to take like lethal tempo or like Halo Blades or something like that. Seems like, and also his win rate is wham.
So
He's
his
like the
soldiers
worst win
actually
rate.
don't stack lethal tempo. I figured that out the hard
Really,
way. Yeah, it's
really.
just his basic
Oh
autos.
no, oh no, I didn't know that.
But I don't know if it's changed. So that was prior because I used to. But when they made Azir like an attack speed based champion with his W, I wanted to go lethal tempo, but I noticed it wasn't stacking with the soldier autos. So you had to be doing your normal auto attacks to stack up lethal tempo, and I stopped playing it after that one game.
So
Okay, I did not realize that. That's okay. Yeah, that's terrible.
I'm looking through Azir's patch history because I'm not seeing the slow on the soldiers. I'm not doubting that you're wrong. I don't see it on the wiki, and I'm looking to see if that was removed ever. But as I'm looking through this, I found a patch. So this was season 7, so this is a long time ago. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened to him on patch 7.19. But the passive attack speed, which now has been removed to do now additional magic damage. So here it was 15 to 55 passive attack speed. Like when this was when they added this effect back in 719, here was how it read. Passive attack speed is now doubled to 40 to 120% while Azir has 3 soldiers active. 40 to 120%. That's what it was. That was what it
That's
doubled
wild.
to. That so then before, so 20 to 60, I guess. But like 40 to oh my god, that's wild. Anyways, go on.
Really doesn't slow. I feel like it slows. Is that?
I'm not seeing
It said
But
lethal.
anything on
I thought it was
here.
always. I know the Q slows, right?
Yeah, Q does.
Yeah.
I'm just in some other world, I guess. It definitely. I don't know what I was seeing then when I was slowing. Maybe it was the Q, and it was just so ingrained of doing the WQ um, abilities that I just never realized that was only on the Q and not the autos. Or it was
Um,
residual slow from the Q.
the soldiers also used to do damage if you cast it directly on top of a turret. It used to
Yeah,
damage a
I
turret.
remember that.
Wow.
That's how you kill turrets. You just keep on putting soldiers on top of it. It wouldn't spawn a soldier, but it would do like a. It's like a soldier tribute in front of the tower, and it did like damage to it, which was really nice. Which made him really good at taking towers. But yeah, it's with his attack speed ratios. I want to try Nasher's Azir again. I know his passive with his W went down, but I feel like maybe it's pretty good. We'll see if there's a way to stack it easily, but I do want to try it again.
Yeah. I'm not seeing anything about these slowing at all, man. But yeah, I'm back in patch 5.3. I'm not seeing these soldiers slow at all. Like lots of change. He's had so many adjustments and number changes. Holy shit. But yeah, I don't see anything in the patch history that specifically talks about it, and it's not on the it's not in the wiki here. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it might happen and it's just not documented
Yeah,
anywhere. I don't think
I'm
that's
just full
likely,
of
but
shit, I guess.
well, I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
I don't know, something's going on. I'm thinking about something else then, but
Ah,
yeah, I thought it feels like it slows, but maybe it's some like weird effect in the attack range of the soldiers. Maybe I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. It
Maybe
definitely
missing.
feels like it when you're playing against him as well, but there's not any documentation about it, so who knows?
Yeah.
Anyways, I
Also
definitely
because it's like you can, like you were saying, you can like auto and then keep, it's almost like because it's like you can almost reset your auto with your Q, right? Because
Mhm.
I don't know. Because it can sometimes appear like the auto is doing it if you do it like that, like auto Q auto.
I think they should change his interaction so that every time you auto, it puts the Q on a 1 second cooldown, like how using Udyr's abilities put his other abilities on cooldown. that would destroy his trading pattern, but I think it would be a lot healthier champion to face.
Yeah, he's sitting at a nice 44% right now.
Yep. And I'm happy with that. Yeah, I mean, I was listening to everything you guys were talking about as I was reading through there, but yeah, basically he seems like he's just kind of an alt bot at this point. Like he's an engage. You kind of have to play him like if anyone watched the T1 Hanwha Life series from Saturday, I think, then like how Faker was playing Azir is kind of how you have to play it now, where you go in and you're flashing, you're pulling people in, and then that's about it. You're not doing a lot of sustained damage. Generally, you're bursty now, so. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. So we're skipping some champions. So we're not talking about Caitlyn. We're not talking about Fizz. We are talking about Gangplank. John wanted to bring up the fact that we can now see the number of kegs that he has available beneath his mana bar. Like so, at first, I mean, he also has the keg recharge rate went up to 18 seconds at all ranks, and then his passive, the bonus true damage, went down later on in the game. But I didn't at first thought I didn't think this is that big of a change. John, do you want to talk about why you thought this was worth bringing up here?
I mean, it just I mean, it makes him a little like it makes him more predictable for sure. Like, because there's no mind games or mystery to the number of kegs he has. Because like it. I haven't played like a ton of GP, but I know that the E cooldown is important to play around, obviously, because I mean that's how you trade in lane and do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you can't play any mind games anymore with that, whether you have it or not. They know, so they can. It makes it very like easy to punish him because when you can trade with him much more easily now. And I think that bush play will be more important with him because of
Yeah,
this.
I think that definitely is good for the laning phase, because you can actually see if he placed a keg in the bush now, right? So the way Gangplank played is you walk in a bush,
Right.
you put a keg down, you walk out, and you're like, what just happened in that like half a second that he walked in that bush? And now you see the charge change, and you're like, okay, he's setting up a barrel in that bush. So if I walk up to the minion wave, then he can just place another barrel and cue me type of thing. And so I think the predictability, as John was saying, is a lot better now for playing against him, because he's a little unfair applying a bunch of melee type damage with his Q.
He is
It's
unfair.
a ranged point and click ability, and so there has to be a little bit more counterplay in the rest of his kit. So I think this is a good change overall, but hopefully it tones him down a bit, and I think it will. I don't know about pro play because I think a lot of good Gangplanks are just really good at Gangplank. So maybe it won't be an issue for them, but yeah.
Yeah,
Also, not only that, but I think that a nerf for him was probably due because also his itemization is like very good right now, and also because of like they made all the changes a while back to with biscuits and tonic for his because I mean he just basically had infinite mana, right? But him just rushing Essence Reaver makes it so he doesn't have that mana problems either. So and his itemization was good with the crit changes, so he can spec into quick like Navori quick blades way or IE way more way earlier in the game. So yeah, I mean I think he needed a nerf. I think this is an interesting way to do it. But yeah, overall I think it just makes what GP wants to do way more predictable.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the interaction when you guys were talking about the putting a bush in a like paying attention to his bar now and a thing in there because whenever I play top lane, I ban Gangplank, so I never have to think about these things because I do not face it. I have just so I have a mental block where in some I just can't beat him in lane. I don't understand what it is. I've played against people who are like much worse than me. I think I would still struggle against like a silver or a bronze level Gangplank if they understood the champion. I'm not saying like I'm amazing top laner. I'm not. But I'm like, mid to high level gold serviceable if I get some champions that I can do some stuff with. But even then I can't. It's like I used to have a mental block against old Swain, so I could never ever beat him in lane. Now it's different. Like this newer Swain, I still don't play that well against him, but I can understand and play against him. But old Swain, I could just never do anything against. We all have these champions where like we understand what they do, but for some reason just oh no.
What I'm hearing is you're not a fan of point and click damage.
I
Old
guess
Swain,
not.
you didn't like that point and click dot. That
I
was so fun. You just walk up and just apply
EQ
the dot
them,
and walk
yeah.
away.
Yeah, well, I also really hate LeBlanc in mid lane, so I guess so. Yeah, like you're saying, and my least favorite champion to play against in jungle, we've talked about it a lot, is Graves, and he doesn't have point and click as much, but it's the other stuff in the kit. It's not point and click there that bother me, but yeah, I guess maybe that is a bit of a theme there. I don't like point and click stuff as much, which I don't think most people in League really like. They like the skill shot movement towards that a lot more. So.
Not a fan of Annie either.
I don't mind that because her if she's stunning, if she's actually doing like good Annie things later on in the game, she isn't point and clicking on you, she's point and clicking on a spot. So if I'm not in that spot, then I'm good.
Laning against Annie's frustrating as like a Yone and Diana
Yeah.
player because the
Yeah.
stun with the Q, it's insane.
And she can
And the
throw it
reflect with her E.
and she could throw the Q when she has 3 stacks, and you're like, I'm not gonna get stunned, and then throw her W before it lands, and then get stunned. Yeah, fun Annie interactions that some of you may not have known. So there we go. Okay, let's move on to Jinx here. So Jinx got a few changes. Her attack speed growth went up from 1 to 1.36%. Okay. Her R, the damage cap against monsters, went up from 800 to 1200. So they're making it so she can actually be a threat to steal objectives again. And her W, the mana cost was 50 to 70, and now it is 40 to 60, so it is down by 10 at all ranks. And the slow is up by 10 at all ranks, so it's not, instead of being 30 to 70, now it's 40 to 80. When I saw these changes, and I read through them before we started talking about this, I said out loud, and both of you can attest to this, that I think that I don't know why people aren't playing Lethality Jinx before. I didn't know why they weren't playing her sometimes before, maybe in mid lane or something. Now this makes it even more appealing because she's getting free attack speed, and that helps always. And her W is the bread and butter of Lethality Jinx because it does so much damage, and it's on like a 2-second cooldown when you have, once you have enough ability haste, they're still slowed by the time you can hit them again. They cannot, if you're able to hit it consistently, they can't get away. This is like imagine if Tahm Kench Q had a 2-second cooldown. That's exactly what's happening here. So more slow and a lower mana cost, which you need for lethality poke build. Fantastic. And then the damage cap against monsters, that's just great. And the rocket does more damage when you go lethality. It's nuts. And the cooldown on it is nuts. It's a damage version of the Ashe that we all hate, the support Ashe. It's a very high damage version of it. That being said, your E still does the same thing, but your Q is nigh useless. So you're handicapping yourself in abilities there. But John, what do you think about these changes? And does my theory about Lethality Jinx being plausible in Summoner's Rift, because it's good in ARAM, but in Summoner's Rift, is that plausible, or am I just smoking something?
So, all right, this is my take on it. My style is like, I just love the full crit, attack speed, space glide. Jinx is like my favorite. So you probably won't catch me playing it, but I will say that, yeah, as far as your R though, like if you're good at using her ability, like her W, if you're good at hitting her W and you can manage to hit her R as well, that's the only thing, right? Like I feel like it's slightly gimmicky still, just because you have to hit your R and your W pretty consistently to get a bit of benefit out, because you're gonna be like, would you go berserker?
No,
Green,
I
or
would go
like
cooldown boots. You go cooldown boots, and you take like Dark Harvest, and so you can get a big like that. The minigun won't do anything, but the switcheroo to
yeah,
the fish bones, I think that's the big one. That hits hard
yeah,
still.
okay, yeah, because it scales off of just like, your fish bones does. So yeah, if you had something if you had a support that gave you like a attack speed, steroid, I think it could be good. It would be much better early, that's for sure. You wouldn't have to wait like 15 minutes to be able to do anything.
Yeah, I think that this would be better in mid lane than in ADC role.
Yes, I agree. I
This is
definitely. I just
basic. This is lethality Varus, but you have
yeah
longer range on some of your stuff, but you have survivability. Like you have your E to stop yourself from getting ganked a bit easier.
yeah. I mean, I guess let's see. Uh, I don't know. I mean, they do like in LCK, they've done like support Varus before, right?
Yeah,
I mean, dude, I would be. Why not Hail of Blade support Jinx? You know,
yeah, that would totally
with
work.
lethality, with lethality. You know what I mean? Like go full lethality support Jinx. That's I guess where my mind goes.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I'm looking at the wiki right now and seeing the modifiers on like Fishbones with the amount of damage that you can stack up, like the percentage when you have like IE and Hurricane is crazy high compared to
Yeah,
you're
when you
missing
have
a shitload of damage.
yeah late game with the full crit like 3 autos from your rockets does so much damage if they're just sitting there together.
So I'm seeing Fishbones damage does 110% of your AD just normally. You can get it up high enough, according to the wiki, where Fishbone's potential crit strike damage on stacked enemies with Runaan's Hurricane and IE is up to 415% AD. So you're like that. That seems like an argument enough where my argument is crap because the number gets that high.
Yeah, I think so. My thing, like, what in my opinion would be a pretty good combo because she's pretty. I think she's pretty strong currently, in the just in the ADC lineup wise. Um, I think Yuumi with her would be good because Yuumi gives her that on hit healing, and she can benefit a lot from it. And I mean, you are going like basically full scaling bot lane. You have to play decently safe, but it is a very safe lane too. Like Yuumi provides a safe lane for her, and she has a lot of range. Jinx does so.
Yeah.
And you can, I think, typically now you're going with what's called Crucible on Yuumi second at the current build. So
Mikhail's Crucible, right? That's the QS.
yeah, and
That's
then
the cleansing item, right?
yeah, so that's really nice because then as Jinx you can just go Ghost Flash, and then like that combo is disgusting because then you can just go Kraken IE into either Runaan's. You can go BT because it's really good with Overheal and Yuumi now, and because of how her R and her W and her E works.
hmm
Uh, so you get a lot of benefit from the Overheal with her, and then or you can go Runaan's, or you can go Phantom Dancer. So situationally, she has a lot of options as well. It's the other nice thing in the current meta, and obviously the just Jinx being able to go IE second item is just really nice because she gets to the point where her autos are hitting really hard in fights earlier in the game, but she's getting those hard hitting autos mid game instead of just late game or accelerated from an early good early game.
Yeah.
So overall, I think she's in a good place. Like these seem like pretty small changes, but like I don't know. I think she's just a very good, well-designed ADC too.
She
Like
is.
I love playing Jinx. Like she's one of my favorite ADCs to play.
Her
So
wi-
I've played a lot of her,
yeah, and
and
her win rate
I love
reflects
these
what you
changes.
sorry, her win rate reflects what you're saying as well because it went up from 50.4 last patch to 51.7 so far.
Yeah, like for me, like I like playing. Whenever I first started playing ADC, I really liked Jinx and Vayne. But like Jinx for me was just like I can play Vayne, but with so much more range, and it's so much more safe, and I can just sit there and farm. Like if I can farm well and stay safe, pop off in a mid game fight, or just off of just a engage or just some random fight or something. Like you can carry games with Jinx pretty easily if it goes to mid to late game.
Yeah. Bomo, what are your thoughts on these changes, and what would you think if you saw a mid lane lethality Jinx facing you?
I mean, I don't mind it to my champion pool really,
Fair.
but I think it'd be a fun champ to play with like flex and stuff. It would definitely shake up the draft, especially if you can pilot it pretty well. I think maxing W is pretty good. I was thinking about some type of, instead of going like Dark Harvest, actually going like a Comet, right? So you can always hit the Comet with a W if they're slowed type of thing. And then you can also tech in Transcendence and whatnot. So I think it'd be pretty decent. Kind of like a weird skill shot based Jinx that could be pretty good, and we scale with levels too, right? So you're stronger when you level it up. But yeah, not much else to really say about her.
You know what I want to see, Eric? Is I want to see mid lane lethality Jinx.
I'll
You go
play it.
Halo
I'll play
Blade.
it right after this if we want. If we want to
You
play
go.
games.
Just imagine this, man. This just sounds so annoying to me. You go Halo Blades. You obviously level Q first. You just walk up. They just walk up into lane. You just insta fishbones 3 auto them walk away. I mean, that sounds so obnoxious. Level 1, man. Like Halo Blades. I think in my opinion, its cooldown needs to be it needs to be changed. Like if they want, I guess, a band-aid fix to the support thing, like ADC thing, like that would be a good band-aid fix, I guess. In my opinion, because I don't know. Let me look at the current like scaling. What is it? It's 12 seconds. It's just 12 seconds.
Yeah, it's already.
They need to make it scaling, I think.
They
is
do.
what they should do. And because I think it definitely is a good rune. It has a place in the game. I like it as a rune. But I think it is like, I guess to me, I'm surprised that something like this hasn't caught on more. But I guess it's just more obvious now because of the itemization changes too. Like because of the amount of damage you can do with Halo Blades with even an ADC who's like Varus or Caitlyn or who has good, base scaling or decent base scaling, you can just get 3 quick autos off. So hard to space against that too, like a Caitlyn Varus or a Ashe Varus with double Halo Blades. Like that's insanely impressive. So in my opinion, they need to change that, but you should try Halo Blades mid.
Yeah, so I just did the math with her. So with Halo Blades, assuming you don't have any other adaptive stats, let's say like you just went, because I didn't incorporate the adaptive in my math here, but let's say you went like attack speed, armor, health, or attack speed, MR, or some shit, right? With Doran's Blade start and level 1 Jinx, you'd be doing about 77 damage per Fishbones auto. So 3 of those in a Hail of Blades stack. You're talking about 225, 230 damage coming through.
That's insane
the pipe.
early.
Yeah.
That's actually insane early.
Yep. And it's 20 mana per attack. Yeah, exactly. That's wild.
So imagine you're playing Azir, right? They nerfed his health to 550 base now. You're doing like almost half his HP, man.
Yep.
Just instantly. That's crazy.
Yeah, or think about like who else is really aggressive level 1? Like Talon. He's trying to clear the wave, just boom, there goes half your health immediately.
Yeah, boom, boom, boom. No like you can't react to it.
Okay.
And then you just W him if he gets near you too.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this then this week, or maybe tonight right after we're done recording. Oof.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Okay. All right. Let's move on because we got a few more to go through. So, Kennen. Let me read through Kennen here. So his Q cooldown decreased, the magic damage on it increased. So his and a couple of other things added. I guess I'll just read the abilities because it's not anything crazy. So the Q cooldown down by 1 second early. It scales down to be the same. So instead of 8 to 4, now it's 7 to 4. The magic damage is the up both flat and AP ratio. So it was 75 to 255. Now it's 75 to 275, and the AP ratio went up by 10 percentage points. So now it's 85%. The W quality of life update: a range indicator will be visible to Kennen when an enemy becomes marked. So that means that you can basically see how far away you can be with it before you can no longer activate the W to give him another mark and do a shock of damage. And then the damage to minions modifier went up from 50% to 65%, which makes sense. It needs to be reduced so you can't wave clear through. I thought there might have been also, it might have been in the previous patch, or maybe they're planning it, but I thought they were going to also do an indicator on enemies that he had already hit with his E, because right now you just kind of have to pay attention to which ones you've hit. I don't, that's not in this patch, but I thought that was something else that they're going to add. But overall, like, just at face value, this seems good for Kennen. He is always a champion that, right, is very careful with buffing, because if he's too strong, he dominates pro play and just absolutely runs over mid game and late game team fights with Kennen flank with ER, because he gets in so fast with flash and absolutely decimates entire teams. Because his R is a high AP ratio, like all of it has pretty high ratios, and he's a lane bully, a very big lane bully too. So, and they always have to be careful as well. Like if they try to change it to give more attack speed, then it becomes AD Kennen, which used to be very strong as well, which can be very strong right now as well, situationally as well. What do you guys think about the state of Kennen right now after these changes?
I feel like I've just seen him a little bit more. I mean, it's just nice quality of life change too with his W, and I mean, I feel like I've seen him mid lane for some reason a little more.
Mid lane, he has a 0.6% or 0.7% pick rate in top on this patch. This is 2.8%. Last patch, it was 1.1 in top and 0.3 in mid. So maybe you're just running into those games more often, but he's barely picked anywhere. So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't play Kennen.
his
I
win
haven't
rate
really
went up
played him
by
much one time.
2% in top though, like a full 2 percentage points, which is kind of crazy.
I haven't seen him, so I don't really have much to say about him.
Maybe that should be the champion you add to your pool now, Bomo.
Can I build Roa?
Yeah, no one will know how to play against it.
You could build Roa, you'd just be missing out on a lot of stats. So no.
We'll try it out.
But building Roa is not like a must-have, because you play Yone, and unless I'm mistaken, you don't build Roa on Yone, or do you, because of your crazy techs?
That you know of. No, I just like the Roa item.
Yeah.
Before it got removed and changed out, so I've been trying to build on whatever I can. But it looks like it's kind of meta now. I think Roa is a pretty standard item. It wasn't built at all, but now I think I've seen a lot more people building it, which I think is good for it. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I think just for Kennen specifically, I think just Proto Belt and Night Harvester are just so good on them, both of them.
Yeah, definitely. Like Proto Belt's much more reliable. Night Harvester will do more damage, but the Proto Belt, just the utility that it gives with the movement speed after casting it, and the bolts, the mini dash, very nice. Yeah, and it's such a low cooldown that, like, when I played a couple games of Fiddlesticks yesterday, and I built Proto Belt because I like that on him a lot, and then just using it as soon as I spawn to get out of base, because by the time I'm at another fight, it's already back up. It's got such a short cooldown. I think that the cooldown should be, instead of 40 seconds, it should be like 20 if you hit a champion with the bolts. If you don't hit any champion with the bolts, then it's 60.
I would like that. I just know that Akali would use it.
Fair, yeah.
That's literally the only. That's immediately where my mind goes. I already.
That's fair.
That is already super annoying to me.
Yep. Okay. Immediately retracted. 40 seconds flat it is.
I can't believe it. That was enough. Akali's that annoying. I hate playing this Akali. Good Akalis, man.
Same.
It's so frustrating.
So frustrating. Okay, next one. We only have a couple more changes than the jungle changes to go through. So LeBlanc, Bomo, you want to handle LeBlanc?
Sure. So I think LeBlanc is going to be pretty good now. They're adjusting the Q, so killing a unit with either part of Sigil of Malice restores 100% of the mana cost and 30% of the spell's remaining cooldown. So this effectively allows her to CS and farm a lot better, because the tough thing with LeBlanc was farming, and you had to choose between damaging your enemy and going for the kill, or wave clearing. So I think this will help her with her with her laning a bit. And now the R mimic Q. Q will now mimic the bonus damage to minions of the original ability. So now you're able to execute with the R2 or get the mana back. And I would assume also 30% of the spell cooldown. So yeah, I think it'll be make her a lot stronger in general now because you'll have CS along with all the kills. So I think it's makes her really strong. I've been banning her, so I hope to not see her for a while. But I've been banning her a lot because she's really strong right now.
I wonder that it's like I didn't even think about that. Like I wonder if it mimics the CDR upon killing like a unit with her R, because I mean in theory you could like if you knew like your damage on your R,
Let me see.
or yeah, I guess Q R, you're basically your RQ, you know, your double RQ, then you could get that CDR from killing someone and then like pop off in a fight. You know, like your cooldowns would just be. I don't know. I
Yeah,
might try some LB. That sounds actually like I don't know. That sounds nice. Like I like playing LB, and I guess my only issue was like, yeah, you have to be like what Mo was saying. You just have to be good at last hitting with her autos before, because her Q, you had to make the decision whether to last it with your Q or use it to trade. And yeah, like you guys had to more so consider your mana as a resource in the context of using your Q. So now you can just spam your Q if you need it to farm. It makes it farming like early a lot easier on her, because I feel like that's like the main one of the main struggles.
it is for sure. Just as far as whether it applies that effect we were talking about, according to the wiki, it doesn't have any details specifically about it, but the ability reads LeBlanc casts a mimic version of her most recently used ability, applying the same effects and then dealing modified damage. So if it's the same effects, then this would also reduce the cooldown of her R.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool, honestly. I mean, I don't know. Let me look at her.
Her win rate went
Like,
up.
how big of a change was it?
It
Okay, change in win rate.
0.7, so
Okay,
enough, like a little bit. Her pick rate doubled though, so it's not
yeah, I
actually
think
zero point 0.7. Once those people who are trying her out again drop her and it goes back to 5 or maybe 4, then we're gonna see what this is really about. I'd say put it at like 49, maybe 50 or so. This is like a 3% win rate change for good LeBlancs, I think.
yeah, I agree. I think yeah, I mean it's just super nice quality of life change.
It is, and while I don't like facing her, I am glad that she is able to be played, because every champion, I mean, the goal is for every champion to be viable in given conditions, and she didn't really have those as much as she should have before. So, yeah. Let's see. The only other ones that we wanted to cover were, did we want to talk about Pantheon?
I mean, we could go over it real quickly because I think that, I mean, we'll just go over it quickly.
Yeah, sure. So, Panth, he got some base stat changes. He gets less health regen per 5 seconds, but his attack speed went up. The mana cost on the Q went down by 5, so now it's 25. The Q tap wind up time, so you is reduced a tiny bit. You actually tap it a little bit faster. By a little bit, it went from 0.25 seconds to 0.2, so it's hardly noticeable, but it will be slightly faster. And the cooldown on the Q went down from 13 to 8 seconds to 11 to 8 seconds. And then his E cooldown decreased, or it increased later. So it was 22 to 16, now it's 22 to 18. Basically, they're trying to bring him up in top lane, is what this is around, and trying to make sure that he doesn't almost semi-permanently have his E up with by specking into ability haste builds, according to this. Seems like this is gonna help him some, but not a lot, which is what they're looking for, because if they help him a lot, then he just goes back to support and takes over the rift.
Yep, I agree. I think it's just, yeah, little changes to help him top. That's just about it. But
Top, his win rate went from 50.4 to 51.7. Mid, his win rate went from 51.5 to 52.2. And his pick rate has barely changed in both of those. And support, it was 40. It is 48. It was 48. So it did not change despite no pick rate changes in mid or support a slight increase in top. But his top win rate is the one where it went up the most, so good job, Riot. Okay, last one we were gonna couple. We're skipping we're skipping Kiana, we're skipping Rammus, we're gonna skip Samira, we're gonna skip Tryndamere and Twitch and Zaya and Yorick and Zed. These are all very minor generally. But we're gonna cover Rumble. John wanted to quickly bring him up. So John, why don't you run us through Rumble?
Yeah, sure. So they did a change to his E magic resist shred increase, my favorite. So, and then not only that, they made it so that the total shred that you get is increased if you hit both your E's. I think this is a good change because that's basically good for good Rumble players, bad for bad Rumble players. Because if you're not hitting the E, then you're not getting nearly as much benefit out of his kit. It's a important part of his kit. So, and it's a skill shot. So, I mean, I think this is a big change because he's not very good in my opinion right now, in general, mid or top. So, yeah, I mean, you just very rarely see him too. So, yeah, I mean, I would like to see more changes. We'll see. I don't know what. I still think he's about the same now, but
Yeah, his win that
I,
supports what you're saying. His pick rate increased in top by almost 1%, and his win rate dropped a tiny bit, like 0.4%. But that's because people are playing him who don't normally play him, I'm sure.
yeah,
And then in mid, his win
I think he's
rate
better mid probably right now. I'd imagine.
his win rate in mid went up by 0.75%, and his pick rate went up as well. So he is better in mid. I mean, he also had better win rates in mid. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, just small buff for him,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, so it went from, I guess in terms of numbers, it went on the first harpoon. It used to be a flat 10% MR shred. Now they're making it scaling. So it's 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And then on two, it's going from just 20% if you hit both to 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
If
I
you
mean,
weren't
yeah, that's,
if you weren't maxing E before second, if you weren't going QEW before on Rumble, now you definitely should be.
yeah, yeah, I would definitely think so. Because, yeah, that's pretty significant, especially late game, and the amount of pen he just builds too. So, yeah, I think that, I don't know, maybe I need to give him a try mid because
Yeah.
I think he's good against like I don't know. The only thing that I think he's bad against like Vagar stuff like that.
Yeah. He
Like
has some rough
Oxfam.
matchups, but he's a response character, and yeah. So,
Yeah,
um,
just small changes.
yep. So that was Rumble. So that's the end of the champion changes there. And so now the only other thing we wanted to talk about, other than the skins, when we get down to them, is I mean, there's been some item changes that weren't all that significant, but jungle changes. So I'll read through these and then we can give our thoughts on them. Counter jungling. So counter jungling damage. Junglers used to deal 20% increased damage to their own camps and scuttle. Now junglers deal 20% increased damage to all camps. Jungle camp gold went up in basically every camp. So blue is now worth 10 more gold. Gromp is worth 10 more. Medium Krug is worth 5 more. Small Krugs are worth 1 more each, but there's 6 of them that pop out, so that's 6 extra gold. The big wolf is worth 5 more. The big raptor is worth 5 more. The small raptors are worth 1 more, but again, there's 5 or 6 of those, so that's an extra 5 or 6 gold. Red is worth 10 more. They did not increase the small wolves. And then also, along with this, they increased the cooldown of Red Trinket of Oracle Sweeping Lens from 90 early to 120 early. It still scales to be 60. It's based on average level. Interesting. I didn't know that. And then Jungler Lane Experience. So junglers can get very ahead of their enemies by sapping early lane XP, but so they used to get 75% of the total XP. Now it's 40 to 70%. 75% scaling from 0 to 14 minutes. So once plates fall, it's 75% again. But early on in the game, it's going to be 40% at level 1 or at minute 0. So maybe 41 or 42 at minute 2 when the minions show up, 43 maybe. But So they're going to be getting less than half the experience. Otherwise, that experience just goes into the void. It's not like the mid laner picks it up. It's just sacrificed because you're a jungler, because of the jungle item. So those are the changes. Not huge overall, but this is coming in a series of changes that have happened to try to get the jungle meta away from heavy ganking and less farming, because those that are perma clearing have been getting outpaced and or just getting outshined by those who gank often. That's why you see Jin Zhao, Nunu, Udyr does both, so we'll count him as a special case. Zac. I mean, also Demonic Embrace was really strong, and Maokai as well because his numbers were overtuned, but it didn't allow those champions who would farm more, such as Lilia. I mean, Fiddlesticks is always good because he's Fiddlesticks. He's just broken as a champion. Hecarim was suffering. I mean, pick your character that Shyvana, those that farm fast, Diana jungle, but don't have great early gank or early dueling. Those champions were suffering, and they're trying to bring these up. So I think they've done a decent job of bringing them up, though I still feel, even after this, that there's a bit of a power difference still. Like it used to be, if 100 was gankers, farmers were at like 50. Now we're at like 75, 80-ish, but I still think gankers are stronger, situation agnostic. John, is that what you're kind of feeling and seeing with these changes coming through?
So I guess like right off the bat, I just really like the counter jungling change because I think that, like you're saying, like I don't know, just ganking junglers were just very heavily favored, just in terms of just how like a lot of things, and then not only that, there was very little like if you couldn't 1v1 that character early, it also felt like there's not much you could do because you couldn't take their camps either,
No.
and also like with how they changed the items, like tank junglers are clearing more easily and faster. Like everyone has a more even clear slightly in general across the board. So I think that this is good because there is the problem of I think both of these changes are good. First of all, because it makes it so that like someone like a heavy ganking jungler can't just perma gank and then get a ton of lane XP and just be super ahead. Like, not only are their laners ahead, but they're also super ahead because of the amount of experience they're getting from lanes early. And then not only that, it's my feeling that it just felt very bad to be like ahead, slightly ahead as the like enemy jungler, and then or like even a good bit. So say I'm like 2 levels up, and then I take all of their camps or something also, and then they just like make one gank, get like one kill, and then it just gives them an absurd amount of experience. Like they're already pretty much back to where you are off of just one kill, like worth of experience plus wave experience. So I think it's also significant to mention about it going from 75% of total experience to 40 to 75% scaling from 0 to 14. So I guess one thing I was wondering is after 14 minutes, does it go to you get 100% of the experience or does it go back to the original 75%? Because then in
My
theory,
read is the 75%, not 100.
yeah, because I guess, I don't know. I guess that's just not really clear, but if it is, I guess my thought was if it is 100%, because it really doesn't say whether it is or not, then that would be significant for carry junglers, but like Graves or Master Yi or something like that, because then you really have to like the decision whether to gank or farm becomes slightly more clear. Like you're probably gonna want to farm in more circumstances than you used to because before 14 minutes, that is what I mean. Because then you can take advantage if it was 100% after 14 minutes. Say you get rift,
Yeah.
and then you get the plates, and then right after that it's 14:01, and then you're starting to get 100% lane experience as a jungler. That would be insane to me.
Yeah.
you could really snowball super hard in that moment. You just would have to know the right moment to do it. But I don't know. We'd have to see about that because it's not very. I don't know. I feel like there should be more explanation around this change. Uh, I guess. But also, I like the sweeper change too because everybody. It was like the default was to pretty much your first base get sweeper or situationally as jungler start sweeper.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it
it
brings up
like
it brings up the power level of those champions that can't really take sweeper because they're gated by their kit in a way, such as Lee Sin
right.
or Jax or I mean another one is Evelyn who should never take sweeper. Just take blue trinket once you hit leave your yellow, maybe keep it until like level 9 and then switch to blue trinket because you don't want to reveal where you are. So that one or
Yeah,
champions that don't go deep into lane like can't go ward on their own like Karthus you wouldn't really want it on, stuff like that. This brings
just a
up those
little.
power level a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I mean this is just a very specific niche example, but like this is slightly annoying for I guess like in some ways annoying, some ways not, because I guess what I'm trying to say is that now you'll have to think about, I guess, whether to keep the decision whether to keep stealth ward longer is like a viable thing to think about, I guess. It has more value to keep stealth ward a little bit longer, I think now. Depending on your champ, right? But I don't know.
Right, if you're using sweeper well where you think there might be vision though, you could always just depending on your rune setup take zombie ward and then you're getting both of those benefits again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like you we have to see like you said we still have to see a little bit how these play out, but I'm interested to see if we're getting closer to parity more. And we won't know for a few patches, really. We kind of have to feel how this happens because there's been jungle changes on, I want to say, every patch so far in Season 13. And it's better that they've done it incrementally because we've slowly felt the change, but at the same time, it's hard as a jungler to really keep up because the jungler has been changed pretty significantly from 13.1 to 13.5 now. So we'll keep you guys updated on how that all feels. Yep. Anything else that we want to talk about relating to this, guys? And we hit all the stuff that we noted down to talk about.
Yeah, I guess one last thing I think that's slightly notable is the change to plated steel caps, which is just very nice. Like it's just a quality of life change to plated steel caps because there's a ton of things that were basically I think Jax W, anything that's like an auto attack enhancement.
Ezreal
Uh,
Q.
yeah, did not get
Yeah.
benefit. Like if you went plated steel caps, it didn't help you against that ability when you're playing against that champion.
Yep.
So they've changed that. So plated steel caps overall will feel better to build across the board, or they should.
Yeah. Another one that I think, I guess, as I'm reading through this again, reminded me Grasp. That nerf, I guess it's a nerf. It's pretty big. Most of the time now, if you're needing some healing and you're going to be fighting, take Fleet Footwork is now really what's going to happen instead. So Gnar is probably never going to take Grasp anymore. Like I think Fiora, I don't know if you're going to be taking Grasp anymore or other. I mean, there's so many champions that take Grasp. So now you're going to see more diversity, or you should see more diversity since Grasp is just inherently worse overall. Except for if you're trying to stack your health, then it might be better. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. So yeah. ARAM wise, the Tower Rebel is gone, and I played with it, and it felt really weird actually. But then I was like, oh, I like this a lot more. So yeah, they also changed a whole bunch of other stats on ARAM generally. Yep, there was a clash this past weekend. I did not participate in it at all. And then there is Clash coming up, not next weekend, but the following, not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend on the 25th and 26th. So yeah, champion pricing changed, and there's been some behavioral system changes. Oh, they changed dodge penalties. So first dodge is 3 to 5, it's now 5 LP instead of 3. Subsequent dodges instead of 10 are 15. Wow, I didn't
I
see that
forgot
at all.
about that. Yeah, I actually did notice that, but completely forgot about that. That is significant.
Yeah, so if you dodge one game, that's worth it. If you're going to dodge a second one, you might as well just play it. So, Okay, we didn't see. I guess we forgot to read through to see if there were any bugs that were worth mentioning. But if there are, I'll be sure to note it in the notes for this. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. And yeah, oh, I guess I forgot the sign off stuff. We have community nights every Tuesday, starting at 7:15 Eastern and running for several hours. They've been great recently, so please keep coming to those and come join if you're interested in finding a healthy and fun community of players. Come join us for those. They're in our Discord every Tuesday. Please check out our Patreon if you're interested in the bonuses that we provide at multiple different tiers. Thank you to all of our patrons who are subscribing to us. Additionally, we have a tournament coming up, which, if you want to know more about that, listen to the beginning of this because I have an audio clip that I edited in for it. So go listen to that. 2 weeks left until that starts. We're really looking forward to it. And if you have any feedback for us, please email us at questions at trinityforcepodcast.com, or leave it in the feedback thread in our Discord server. So with that, this has been episode 801, and thank you everyone for tuning in. We will see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.